your lineage then?
My dad is from Sicily.
Oh,
My Italian family immigrated here. And then my mom's side is Mexicano. And my great grandparents immigrated here from Jalisco, Mexico
wow,
in
fantastic.
1920, over 100 years ago.
So the Mexican branch of your family and the Sicilian branch all
Yeah.
came to Flint, Michigan.
I know, right? And growing up, that was so weird. I never understood it.
That's
I didn't
fantastic.
understand it till I learned a whole lot more about the city's history. And then it made sense.
Oh yeah?
And it didn't make sense growing up.
Can we push your glasses up? Thank you so much. I'm Corey,
Better?
by the way.
Hey, I appreciate your direction.
So keep your eyes to me.
Okay.
So can you start out by telling me a little bit about your past? You know, that you were born and raised here, and that your sort of your heritage. Since you are director of the Latinx Center, it would be good to hear, in your case, more about like your heritage, the people that came to Flint and how long ago, and all of that.
Absolutely. All right, I'm gonna do another take. But yeah, do I start off with my name? No.
We can.
Yeah,
We
I
can,
guess not
sure.
useful. Hello. Okay. So yeah, it's very intimidating. It's a lot. So
Don't worry about that. Just look at
yeah. Well, yeah, I was born and raised in Flint, Michigan, and my dad was actually born in Sicily, which is part of Italy, and my Italian side of my family immigrated here when he was a younger individual, and then on my mom's side is Mexican, right? And my mom, my granddad were born here in Flint, Michigan, but my great grandparents migrated from Jalisco, Mexico, all the way to Flint, Michigan.
So interesting. And were the people that immigrated here to Flint, were they involved in the car industry, as most people seem to have been?
Yeah, that's an interesting history, an interesting experience for my family around the automobile industry. Um, so, right, my Mexican side of my family have been in Flint much longer, right? They got here in 1920, straight from Mexico. So they were really here for a lot of the boom of the automobile industry. Um, but people of color at that time worked in the foundries, and my granddad had said, you know, it was a very rough job. It was not desirable, terrible working conditions, and he even shared a story that I think it was his first week on the job that one of his coworkers died. So he did not work at the automobile industry anymore. It wasn't the job for him, but he did work for the city his whole life.
What is a foundry?
That's a great question. The foundries, you know, I can't speak to it to too much of a degree, but I believe the foundries was the area where there's a lot of heat in the pit. I'm not too sure what exactly that is, but the undesirable jobs that were dangerous.
Probably back in those days,
Yeah.
was not good. Safety measures and all
Yeah,
this stuff.
right. Labor rights, right? Safety precautions, all pretty questionable.
And so that was the Mexican side of the family.
Mm-hmm.
And the Italian side of the family, what did they do here?
That's funny. So my granddad, my nono, he ran a little grocery store and sold fruit and vegetables and did a lot of gardening back in Sicily. And when they immigrated here to Flint, Michigan, it was funny. He did the same thing, worked in a lot of the farms, cultivated and harvested a lot of produce, and would go door to door with my aunts and uncles selling produce.
So you really grew up here with a very deep sense of this place.
Oh yeah.
Your roots are here. As far as you're concerned, you're Michigan
Yeah.
family, right? How big of a Latino community is there here? Doesn't, as an outsider, I don't know. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, so the Latin community has been in Flint for at least over 100 years. And it's funny, we really got deeper into that doing some census outreach work this last 2020, this last year. But yeah, my family came here in 1920. And what we know is that during that 1920, Mexico was at a revolution, right? There was a war inside the country. And 33% of the country moved north, right, of its population. And in that process, my family came to Flint, Michigan, and came right here. So Latin or Latino history or Chicano history, there's a lot in the state of Michigan specifically. Michigan is an important agricultural state, right? It's the second most important in the continental United States for agriculture. So a lot of migrant farmers came here. There was a lot of the draw to come here for that job opportunity to cultivate and harvest the fields, and that's how my family got here as well.
Oh, so interesting. Why, why do you have the Latinx Center? Did you start it, or were you hired by it?
Hired.
And what is that the Latinx Center does here? What's the mission?
Yeah. So, given Flint's history, it became incredibly important to realize how important it is to focus on measures of health, of literacy, and just gainful employment. So our mission at the Latinx Technology and Community Center is really focused on having a healthy community, a vibrant community, and a community that is prosperous. So a lot of our work focuses around the social determinants of health and different areas and factors in society that can impact overall health and well-being and quality of life.
Is there, or has there been, listen, many people that have been here this week talking to me have expressed a variety of issues. The people that suffered under the water crisis, and people that expressed, what the sit-down strike was all about, and how workers were abused by General Motors, and there's housing crisis, there's many issues. Does the Latinx Center exist to correct conditions, or to help raise up Hispanic population that maybe has not had the same opportunities? Anything along those lines?
Yes, a lot of history there. I don't want to be really negative in this interview. A lot of oppressive history, but
No, of course, but out of that comes
yeah.
what you're doing, which is a positive thing. But give us a little background so it
Yeah.
has more meaning.
Absolutely. So currently in the city of Flint, and throughout its history, the East Side has always had the highest concentration of Latin folk. And currently today, if we look at the East Side, just under 10% identify as being of Hispanic origin, Latin, Latinx, whichever term you like to use. But in that, we see that the community, the city itself has had a lot of history, and a lot of different things have happened that have really shaped the communities and the neighborhoods and how we see them evolve to the state that they're in today. So the Latinx Center, the community center, is really a grassroots organization that is there to help advocate on behalf of the needs of the cultural community, to be there as a resource center to connect both the neighborhood community members and as well as the cultural community to important resources such as programs, services, and other initiatives. But unfortunately, throughout the history of the city of Flint, there was a lot of organizations and institutions that were really there to serve the Hispanic community. There used to be a Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. There was a Spanish-speaking information center that had multiple employees that were really there to service those community members in the Spanish-speaking community. And even in our education system, we had bilingual education programs in schools that were really wonderful in making sure there was a vibrant cultural community and a healthy and prosperous community. Unfortunately, those institutions, programs, and services have disappeared and gone away. So the community center is fulfilling that role to the best of its duties. It is a grassroots organization with a very limited staff, but we continue to advocate on how it's important to make sure communities aren't marginalized or underserved, and recognize the different cultural differences and how that can be beneficial, and as well in service that it's also addressed adequately.
Yeah. Why would you say that these bilingual programs and Chamber of Commerce and all of these things disappeared, did it fall victim to all the other things that happened it blows my mind, really, how many things have befallen
Yeah.
this town, this city. You guys have had a lot of challenges.
Yes. Yes, a lot of challenges for sure.
Economic and
Yeah, there's definitely the economic challenges, which really impact those small businesses that had cultural products, the cultural markets, all those services. Even during the pandemic, right, we learned how changes in the economy can really impact those small businesses, which are in the neighborhood, that are run by neighborhood community members. But there was really a lot of different factors that kind of influenced or negatively impacted the structures and support systems that were here in our community service in the Latin community. Yeah, I don't know what to go, because I'm gonna go into some like
Yeah.
discrimination and a whole bunch of crazy stuff.
Listen, let's talk.
Yeah.
Give me the full picture, and we'll bring it all to the positive place that you're taking things to. But
That sounds good,
what
right?
gives it depth? To
Yeah.
tell me, like, what are the factors that affected your community so much?
Yeah, Flint has amazing history, some absolutely amazing history. And I think about how Flint was, like the first city in the nation to have the people elect to have open housing, where people of color could decide and move freely on where they wanted to live. That's a powerful piece of history in our city and in our country. Um, the unfortunate repercussion of that was once people of color started moving into other neighborhoods, other people started to move out. And that is a factor in how our neighborhoods got to the state that they're in today. And then even further, we know with the urban development and the development of expressways really did destroy some prominent communities here in our city, specifically the St. John's area, where there was a lot of immigrant families, there was a lot of black families, a lot of Latin families that were there that lost their homes. My family was one of those families that lost their home in that project of construction of that expressway. But really, what's important to note is that, right, those support systems, the businesses that were there, the pharmacies, the whole communities that were there were really erased. They were destroyed and they're gone. If you look at the map today, you would never be able to tell that there was ever such a vibrant and prosperous community that was there. And it seems like the communities that are marginalized are still dealing with a lot of those repercussions from those actions.
A woman the other day that was sitting in the chair you're in said, when that I-475
Yeah.
came in, that was the beginning of the end. Is that the expressway you're referring to?
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah.
Tell me what you love about Flint and what you love about your neighborhood.
Yeah. Yeah, I love Flint. Huge fan of Flint. It's an amazing place to be. It's an amazing city filled with the best people, and I'm gonna say the best. But I think there's a lot of different reasons to love Flint and love its residents. I think the people here are absolutely, I wouldn't know how to say it, right? But the people here are real. They're authentic. They are true to who they are and what they believe. And that's a beautiful thing. And Flint has this amazing history where community members have been loud, outspoken, and advocates. Right when we think of all the different things that have happened in Flint, Flint has such a rich history, such a rich history. Right, the automobile industry is one thing, and that's a powerful thing to speak on when we're in a country like the United States that has this this system of capitalism and how it can have such a grand explosion in prosperity. Right, Flint can talk to that. Flint can also talk about the collective action that people take when they organize and form a union and say, hey, we need to make sure we're being treated fairly and that we have rights and that we're heard. I think that's powerful. I think about all of the different things that the Flint community members have come together and advocated for, like the Open Housing Act, right? That's another powerful thing that's happened here in our city. When I think of our city's history, right, I think, right, Flint is U.S. history and its people, right? Flint is Chicano history. Flint is Latin history. Flint is Black history. And there's so much to unravel and document and really make sure that it's attributed because I think it can be very telling and very insightful into, I think, issues we see across our country and maybe different directions our country could go in.
You know, many people that I have spoken to this week, sitting in where you're sitting now, they're advocates, and they've stepped up to address all the challenges that have come up and talked about challenges in the past. And it becomes very apparent that this is a community that stands up and doesn't just take it, but works together. But you are the first person that has talked about or mentioned the term open housing.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell me what that is and when that happened, what it was?
Yeah, in the United States, right, there's been interesting history in how people of color have been treated. After chattel slavery came Jim Crow, which was really detrimental to the Black community. And one of those things was housing segregation, right? A lot of communities found themselves living in neighborhoods that were segregated, right? Where you would find people of color and immigrant communities. And the Open Housing Act was this way in saying that, in recognizing that segregation isn't okay and that people should have the freedom to live where they want to live. And the city of Flint was the first city to have that on the ballot and be approved by its electorate. And I love hearing stories from our elders about that moment in time, about the protests that were happening in front of City Hall, and hearing it from my granddad too is a powerful, powerful story. And it's amazing to see how community members came together to say, hey, this isn't right, we need to do something about it. And the people voted on it and made it happen.
That's amazing that this was the first city in the country that enacted open housing. Do you know when that was approximately?
I believe that was 68. I'm not for sure. But in the late 60s is when it was on the ballot and approved by its electorate.
So the people that were protesting were the people that were pushing for open housing?
There was both. There was both sides. My granddad really wanted to attend. He was
So that's an example where I would ask you to say things to elaborate.
Yeah.
You know, if you say to me there was both sides.
Right.
You could
What do
say
you mean?
There were pro and against
Yeah.
open housing. If you could elaborate on that, because that's important.
Absolutely.
So the question is, the people that were protesting, were they people that were advocating for open housing?
Yeah, so when that was on the ballot and when that was up for vote, it was definitely, I was going to say the same thing, both sides.
You can say both sides. There were people pro and people
That's what it
against.
is. Thank you.
So I'll ask you again.
I love the direction here.
Well, that's
Y'all doing a fantastic job.
my job is to help you.
Yes.
So now I forgot my question. So, when people were protesting, were
Yeah.
they the ones advocating for open housing?
Yes. Yeah, so when open housing was up for vote, there were people that were in favor and that were at City Hall, definitely making sure that their voices were heard. And at the same time, there were people in opposition to open housing. And in hearing those stories from our elders, one thing that they always talk about is they always talk about the number of, armed security, armed police. There was a lot of snipers. Across the street is the county administration building. And they talk about how that was lined up with a lot of snipers because racial discrimination at the time was very heated.
I'm gonna guess.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make a wild guess that the snipers were on
Right?
the white side of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow, that's very serious.
Yeah. My granddad talks about stories all the time about racial segregation and discrimination and oppression, and specifically talks about how, um, once the lights turn on, the city lights turn on, and the sun starts going down, right? People of color had to be in their respective neighborhoods. And he talks about two unique stories about once how he wasn't in his neighborhood when the sun had gone down and got beat up by the police, and another time when he just got beat up by community members. Um,
Wow. This was also in the late 60s, early 70s?
yeah, I imagine so. In the late 60s, he was a young man in school, wanted to attend, but his father didn't let him attend the rally in protest, pushing for open housing because it was a lot could happen. Like I said, there was a lot of armed forces there. There was opposition there, and he was concerned for his security, safety, and health and well-being.
So was this a law that was on the books about being in your neighborhood after dark, or was it just understood? Do you know?
That's a great question. That's why it's important to have local history because, unfortunately, um, a lot of our ugly history isn't always documented. Um, and if we don't document it, sometimes we can act like it never existed and we can erase it.
You know, we're in a very interesting moment in this country where people are trying to take books off the shelves and erase
Yeah.
facts about slavery, discrimination, all these things. And part of this project that you're participating in is to hear the voices of the people talking about their personal histories, the people that they are a part of, the demographic. You represent the Latinx, you know, contingency here. And your grandfather, I'm presuming maybe he's no longer with us.
He's still alive.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Fantastic. But one day he'll be gone.
Yeah.
It's important to keep all these things alive
Absolutely.
and to really understand the history of our country. So, yeah, it would be great to know if that was a real law in the books. In any case, it was
Mhm.
something that was being enforced.
Yeah.
And the people in the Latinx community were being definitely, what's the word, oppressed.
Yeah. Yeah. And then what I'm told is I'm not sure because it was also called redlining, right? Specifically, which was that segregation by different areas. And it might have been the culture, right? I'm not sure if there was a law on the books that prevented, some things, but yeah.
What does redlining mean?
Redlining was that process, that very much so explicit segregation or oppression, and letting people know where they could be, could not be, could live, could not live, could work, can't work, things like that.
So once the law was passed, this open housing
Yeah,
initiative,
yeah,
suddenly Latinx people could live anywhere in the city. Is that right?
yeah. People of color could then live where they wanted to.
If you could say, once the open housing was passed, then people of color.
Oh yes, I thought you were asking another question.
No.
That's great.
Just asking you to say it in a more complete time.
I love it. Yes, absolutely. So upon approval by the electorate to have open housing, at that time, people of color could have the freedom and had the freedom to live where they wanted to, which is a beautiful thing. And then that happened in the late 60s, right? Approved in the late 60s. And in the early 70s is when we seen the construction of the expressways that came through and really did some destruction to some prominent neighborhoods that were there. For the St. John's community, right, we refer that to as our Black Wall Street here in Flint. And unfortunately, right, when that neighborhood got destroyed, then people of color really had to find a new place to move to, and that expedited the phenomenon that we know in our history as white flight, where people that were white left the city and moved into the surrounding communities to not live close to people of color.
So crazy. So guess the creation of the Latinx Center
Mhm.
was to address certain things that are just a byproduct of things that happened a long time ago. I'm guessing the Latinx Center is fairly new. How long, can you talk about when that was founded and who
Mhm.
founded it and why?
Yeah. So when Flint has this amazing history with a lot of residents that did some amazing things. Specifically, I can think of like our community members in the armed forces that served in the military. Flint has a lot of our older veterans, and then even well as the people power in producing equipment and machinery for those different wars that we've had in the world. But out of that, after World War II, there was after one of those wars, there was the the GI Bill, right, which supported veterans. But unfortunately, veterans of color found themselves usually unable to access the GI Bill. So there's an organization here in Flint that started in 1966, which was called the American GI Forum, and it was a Hispanic, veteran-centric organization to make sure that the Hispanic veterans were served when they got back, when their families were supported, and really try to help them in their efforts to reenter society, to find housing, and to get education. Um, and then in 2000, there was the technology boom and the internet boom. And a lot of residents found themselves without access to internet, without access to computers. And Mott Community College wanted to do something about it. And they said, we're going to start some technology centers throughout the community and throughout the city. So the leaders of the GI Forum happened to know that. And they talked with Mott and said, hey, we would be a great partner to partner with for a tech center. So they were able to partner with Mott Community College, and the GI Forum had a building, and they started the Hispanic Technology and Community Center in Flint's East Side, right on Lewis Street.
Is that still in existence?
Yep, we still operate out of that same building, and it's a stone's throw away from I-475.
That's
Yeah.
kind of significant, I guess.
Yeah.
So the Hispanic Technology Center, did that become the Latinx Center, or is it a separate organization?
It did. So in 2001, in a partnership with Mott Community College and the American GI Forum, they worked together to establish the Hispanic Technology and Community Center. And then as our country continues to exist and progress, we see the ever-changing dynamics in our community. So in 2019, we became pretty observant that the cultural community we were serving was beyond just Spanish-speaking folk. We had folks from Brazil and throughout Latin America, and we wanted to make sure that we captured that diversity in the population that we were serving. So we went from Hispanic to Latinx, and that was really a recommendation from one of our youth programs, our youth leadership program. Our youth leaders were learning about different terms for our identity, for our cultural community, and they really liked the term Latinx at that time because they felt it was inclusive, it encompassed the culture, and it was not male dominant, it wasn't female dominant, and it was inclusive to everybody.
Fantastic. So, do you, I guess I would ask you again to tell me, like, specifically what the Latinx Center provides.
Yeah.
Is it business training? Is it like, I don't know, helping people gain access to certain services or informing them of certain services that are available, that kind of thing?
Yeah. So at the Latinx Technology Community Center, there's a number of different things that we do. But we would summarize our work by saying, right, we educate, we advocate, and we celebrate. Right, we have a number of different educational programs that support our community. We believe it's important to be bilingual, right? It's important to be bilingual. The United States Census Bureau is telling us and has been telling us since 2000 that the Latin population in the United States is going to quadruple in just a number of years. In 2000, they made a prediction that by 2050, the Latin population would be 25% of the overall U.S. population. In 2020, they said we're going to reach that number a lot quicker than they originally thought. So we believe it's important to be bilingual. There's a lot of economic benefit to it, especially as a country in a global market, and especially when Latin America is our number one trade partner. But we teach English as a second language, we teach Spanish as a second language, and we also do a lot of youth programs, right? We want to make sure our youth hold on to that rich history that Flint has of being an advocate, being a leader, and really being a trailblazer in what they do. And with our elementary age youth, we do a lot of that cultural education and linguistic education of both English and Spanish because unfortunately, in our public education, we're missing a lot of that rich history, especially that is representative of the accomplishments from the cultural community, our Latin community.
Why is that? Is that because a lot of the population is immigrant and they've lost contact with their history? Why is the culture being lost?
Yeah, well, Flint has amazing history, especially when it comes to public education. And then now it has a really interesting and alarming history when it comes to public education. And I think that can be really telling. At a time when Flint was prosperous, it's funny how bilingual education wasn't even a question or wasn't controversial. It made sense. It was very beneficial. We know the benefits of being multilingual or bilingual. But unfortunately, Flint isn't an economic powerhouse as it used to be. It doesn't have so much influence, and those programs are some of the first to get cut. So that erasure of language, the erasure of culture, historically has been an issue for our country, and we see that kind of still true for our public education today.
I think there has been a shift. I think that immigrants to this country and immigrants from Latin America used to make an effort to assimilate as quickly as possible and lose Spanish.
Yeah.
But I see
A resurgence.
a resurgence of keeping the bilingual thing alive.
Yeah.
Why is that important?
Yeah, it's amazing. I think as I reflect on the youth that we serve and the conversations that I overhear, it's amazing to see how aware young individuals are, right? Elementary age individuals, high school students, how aware they are of the different racial dynamics that we have in the country. I think there's this great understanding from the up and coming generations on the importance of culture. And I think it's a beautiful thing to see a lot of people saying in that reflection that I don't know the language of my grandparents or my parents because it wasn't taught to me, or because there's this culture in our country or society that English is right and we should speak English and we should kind of hide our identities or belittle our identities and the language of our ancestors.
And now?
Yeah, right. And it's great to see. It's great to see how many young people come and they want to learn Spanish, and it's great to see even how many parents and grandparents and older community members who did have that experience of that one discriminatory practice in school where it was forbidden to speak another language. Unfortunately, we do still see that today, where it's against protocol or social practice or social norms to speak another language in school. But to say, yeah, I do want to learn my language, and I am proud of the accomplishments of the cultural community and the diversity that we bring.
I think that's fantastic. So do you get to see through these programs with the community, with young people, with older people, do you get to see transformation? And if so, can you talk a little bit about it? Any examples? And also, how does that make you feel?
Yes. It's funny. Before I had the job, uh, to be able to serve as executive director at the Latinx Community Center, it was it was a place that I went to, right? Having grown up and spent a long time or many days on the east side, right? The east side very much feels like home, right? My family is from the east side. All of them grew up there, have businesses there. My cousins used to own a barbershop right on Lewis Street, and I can think about all the times that my granddad took me to those iconic businesses on the east side, like a Flint coney from Angelo's and a delicious pizza from Luigi's. But when I first visited the center, I went there because I wanted to volunteer. Unfortunately, throughout our history, right, our cultural community has lost a lot of the businesses, a lot of the supportive services, and there wasn't a lot of vibrancy, right? It could almost feel like there is no Latin population in Flint due to the loss of all these different things. And I went there and I said, hey, I just want to volunteer. You know, I want to see these things happen, and just let me know what I can do. And thankfully, they had contacted me about 6 months later, let me know there was a position open, and I applied, and that's when I became the executive director of the tech center. But in that, I'm in my 5th year now, and it's difficult to see for me being so connected to the work. But I hear from so many community members and so many other organizational leaders that, right, that vibrancy is increasing, right? There is a complete difference than what it looked like just 10 years ago. So I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful. I see a lot of excitement from our other Latin community members that really want to, right, be strategic in our rebuilding of our communities and neighborhoods.
That's great.
Yeah.
Did the water crisis hit the community hard, or not so much?
For sure.
I
Yeah.
guess it affected everyone, right?
Yeah. And then who spoke? Did anybody talk about this?
Many people.
Yeah.
I'm curious,
Yeah.
particularly in the Latinx community, no one has spoken through it.
Was that on the Latinx lens?
through it
So it's gotta
from
be
the
me.
perspective of the
Great.
Latin population, so that's your job.
I know. Great. Yeah. So, right, the health crisis that our community had was, right, really telling, and I think as well, Flint has a lot of moments, a lot of experiences that can be really insightful for other communities, cities across our country. But during Flint's water crisis, right, it was a real health crisis to families. And there was a lot that we learned. And unfortunately, it took our community too long to learn. We know that not everybody in our state, not everybody in our city, not everybody in our neighborhood speak English. We're very familiar that the United States has this amazing immigrant history. So unfortunately, there was a delay or a gap in which information was being shared in other languages besides English. And that's really impactful. And then we also know that immigrants have a unique experience, and it takes a while, or it can be impossible to have certain documents. And one thing was when there was water distribution, the first thing was to do was which makes sense, is to ask for an ID to, have that validation that this individual does live in Flint. But unfortunately, right, if you're an immigrant, depending on what process you're in or what state you're in, you might not have an ID. So there was definitely people that were left out in the services to the community and making sure people had access to water and access to information. But luckily, we have, like I said, some amazing advocates that never stop to continue to speak up and say, hey, we need to make sure this information is in other languages. We need to recognize the population that we have that is Spanish speaking. And we also need to be mindful that not everybody does have an ID, right? And that's not only exclusive to immigrants, right? There's a lot of people in our neighborhood due to multiple different reasons that just do not have an ID.
Actually, I will tell you, and you'll probably be happy to hear this, a couple of other people of color talking about the water crisis did mention that the language barrier
Yeah.
really delayed information in getting to Spanish-speaking people, and that sometimes when people in the Spanish community went to pick up water bottles, ICE
Yeah.
was waiting for them, this kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it was a very difficult time, I know.
Yeah. Yeah, they got some interesting practices.
What do you think the Latinx community learned from all that? You alluded to, we learned a lot of things to move forward in the future. Like, what kind of things did you guys learn from those difficulties?
I hope we learned. I don't think we learned, but not us, just the
Yeah.
institutions in general. So I'm gonna use the right words.
There's something roaring overhead, right?
Must be that helicopter.
Dragon.
Do you want me to repeat the question?
Yeah, I had something there, but yeah, please.
It was basically if you had
What did we
anything
learn?
to say about
Oh yeah.
things that were learned from these hard experiences around the health crisis and for your community.
Yeah. So, right out of that health crisis that our community went through, there was a lot of lessons that overall as a city that we learned, and as a community that we learned, and I think it really increased the city's awareness, right? Our local government, our local institutions, and human and social supportive organizations that it's incredibly important to make sure that information can be accessible and that institutions and organizations can be navigated by individuals that might have different immigration statuses as well as different language is in their household.
Um,
Awareness, keyword.
Awareness,
Yeah.
yes. Why is preserving the history of all Greater Flint residents important?
Ooh, it's so important. I love that. Right, as a community, we are again more mindful that we need to make sure we are capturing everybody's history, because with everybody's history, we can paint a much better, bigger picture. I think we're here in the city of Flint, and one thing that we always love to reminisce about or talk about is when Flint had a massive amount of influence due to its population, due to its prosperity, and due to the automobile industry. And I think sometimes what I see when we reminisce about that history is I think sometimes we erase the experiences and the realities of what those jobs could have looked like for people who weren't right for those communities of color, how people were treated in the workplace and the jobs that they did have, and how they found themselves in the most undesirable and dangerous positions. And I think that's an important piece to tell. Because I think when we think about how we reminisce about it, when we talk about it, when we talk about forming the union and the sit-down strike and all this, I think it's important not to leave out the people of color that were there too and the role that they played. Even the teachers union, right? Flint served as a national model for public education. And I know for a fact that there were people of color there leading that. So it's important that we document that and attribute that, because if not, unfortunately, I think as a society, we still attribute a lot of U.S. history to just whiteness.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
No, it's so important.
yeah, especially all the photos too I see of the automobile industry here. It's like, where's the foundry? I know they're there.
Oh my God. What is your wish for your community here in Flint? What is your big desire? What would you love to see happen?
Flint is, without a doubt, Black history. Flint, without a doubt, is Chicano history or Latin history. There is so much that has happened here. It's funny. Coming up this week is it's going to be National Cesar Chavez Day, which is March 31st, and Flint has this amazing union history for teachers, for the automobile industry, and Cesar Chavez formed, along with Dolores Huerta, the UFW, right, the United Farm Workers Union, And they spent a lot of time here in Flint, strategizing, learning best practices, sharing with one another. And that's important, right? If we're not documenting that, then why would we ever think Flint has such a rich Latin history? And if we're not documenting the accomplishments and as well the negative and detrimental parts of our history, I think sometimes we'll paint a different picture, right? It's easy to paint a picture that maybe these communities of color that often find themselves in lower income neighborhoods, I think sometimes it might be easy to attribute that to maybe work ethic or culture when I think there's been a lot more things that have happened that resulted in what we see today.
Factors that come from the outside, not
Yeah.
from within.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting because people have spoken about the sit-down strike and how that incident and the UAW affected labor practices around the country.
Yeah.
But this story about Cesar Chavez and
Yeah.
the United Farm Workers,
Yeah.
they were one of the unions that were really influenced by what happened here, right?
Yeah.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, and I love the stories from the elders, and this is why it's so important to document histories from different communities, because right, the UFW, that United Farm Workers Union, they accomplished a lot for labor rights and recognition in those cultural communities that are in the fields harvesting the crops. And one thing is that when Chavez did come to Flint, right, talking with our elders about the experiences of the different marches and the different strikes and boycotts at the different neighborhood grocery stores. That was a part of their movement, is to boycott grapes, and that really, it's funny how boycotting grapes was so impactful in our country's history. And it's like, why grapes? But it's like, oh, that produces wine. and if we're not cultivating and harvesting grapes and wine production stops, it's going to affect other communities, and that's exactly what it did. It grabbed their attention to a much larger degree.
That's really something. What haven't we talked about in relation to the Latinx Center or the work you do, or the result of the work that you do that you would like to say that we haven't covered?
I'd like to share a story. I don't know if it's helpful at all. I'm not sure how this is going to be used exactly.
I don't either, so
Right.
go for it. Yeah.
Yeah, I spent a lot of time growing up on the east side. My whole family, you know, lived, born, raised on Flint's east side. And Flint's east side has historically had this highest concentration of the Latin community. And I remember when I applied for the job position to be the executive director of then the Hispanic Technology and Community Center. And when I got the position, I could not wait to tell my grandparents. I was so excited. I said, hey, guess what? I want to share this amazing news with you. I just got this job to be the new executive director of the tech center. Oh, and they said, that's great. That's fantastic. We're so excited for you. They said, that's funny. We used to live right there. We used to live right by the tech center. I was like, what? Please take me to where your childhood home. I'm so curious. I've seen photos. Can you take me there? And they said, no, unfortunately, the house doesn't exist anymore. So I thought, oh, maybe, Flint's housing crisis got to it, right? Maybe it's just turned into an abandoned home. Maybe it accidentally got caught on fire and it's just been demolished. And then as I kept engaging with them, I later found out that their house is underneath the expressway. And I said, wow, if I want to see where my grandparents were from, I guess when I'm driving 75 miles an hour, I just got to look out the window and say, oh, I guess I'm here. But that's impactful. And I think about specifically my granddad's experience, right? He worked his whole life for the city of Flint, and he took care of all the parks. And Flint has some amazing parks. Especially even his stories about Atwood and getting to meet all the different famous people that came to Flint at that time to deliver a speech, to do a show, and all those different things, and how much was really he felt ownership of, because that was his responsibility to maintain them and take care of them and cultivate them. And then he retired from the city of Flint, and they continued to live in their home on the east side. But unfortunately, um, right during the water crisis, they could no longer afford to pay their bill on their retirement, especially due to the city of Flint shrinking in its tax base and size to be able to provide pensions and health benefits to its retirees. So unfortunately, they lost their home during the water crisis and had to move in with my parents. But I think about all these things, and I think about how, like, right, my great-grandparents' home, when they got here, that they owned, was destroyed or gone or lost. And then my grandparents' house, which I lived in and spent a lot of time growing up there. And when I was 16, that's where I resided. I resided with my grandparents, and how they lost that home. And when he even worked his whole life and career for the city. It's very interesting. And I think about the value of those businesses and homes that the rest of my family own and how they've been devalued, and they don't hold much value. So I think about like like the generational wealth that we see, and how different experiences or different governmental actions have really as well impacted generational wealth, and how that attributes to where different communities find themselves in vibrancy, in levels of education and prosperity.
I mean, you would assume that somebody that lives in a city where their great-grandparents lived
Yeah.
through those generations has probably accumulated wealth,
Yeah.
respected old families of the town and everything. But
Yeah.
in your case, it's gone the other way a bit. Does that make you feel sad or angry?
I'm sad that my grandparents' home is no longer part of our family. We share stories about that house all the time, still today. It's like, that wouldn't happen at 3417 Marmion. It's not going to happen. Grandparents wouldn't allow it. All right, this behavior is just unacceptable. But it's all those memories. It's those shared moments. If you drive through the neighborhoods in the city of Flint, you're going to see some amazing structures, some beautiful homes. Unfortunately, a lot of these homes need investment. But I think about how many stories and how many families have experiences here, which is really, really impactful, especially when family can be an important role in a culture. And to not have that anymore, that's sad.
Two more questions. One is, I asked you what your wish was for the Latinx community here in Flint. Now I'm going to ask you, what do you wish
A lot
would
of wishes.
happen for Flint as a whole? Because you're very tied into the city,
Yeah.
all of it, really.
Well, I think Flint has an amazing opportunity to really serve, again, as a national model for the country. I think Flint served as a national model uh, in prosperity, in sharing how wonderful capitalism can be, and how amazing education can find itself in, and how thriving neighborhoods exist, and when that exists, all the wonderful things that come from that. I think we see a different reality today in our city, especially in our neighborhoods. I think there's been a lot of economic suppression of neighborhoods, and I think there's been a lot of direct or indirect decisions that have unfortunately resulted in the state and condition we find our neighborhoods today, the state of our public education system today. And I think that is very telling. I think that can serve as a national model for saying, in less than 100 years, in one lifetime, you can go from the pinnacle of prosperity to the absolute detriment and be, one of the most poorest cities in the country. And I think those health consequences as well can be telling.
So there's an opportunity here
Yeah.
to, again, kind of show everyone.
What not to do? No, not what not to do. But keep going. I'm sorry.
No, but there's an opportunity to be a. You're right. To be an example
Yeah.
of something. The trajectory of this place is so interesting.
Yeah. Genesee County. I know 10 years ago. I can't still speak on it today, but I know at that time, Genesee County was one of the most segregated counties in the country, top 10. And I think that's telling to when we understand the county's history and the city's history, right? A lot of people came here for the automobile industry to play a role and to have a job there. And right, that's important to know. A lot of people came from the South, right? A lot of black families here that contributed to that prosperity. That was all people power. And like I said, when we find that the people came together to say, hey, I don't think these practices are okay, we should end housing segregation, that's fantastic. But then the result was people fled and developed the surrounding cities into the wealthy states that they find themselves in, and have been concentrated that way.
Do you have hope for the future?
Yeah, no, not at all.
Thank you.
No. Yeah, I find myself in a weird pessimistic mood. I'm wondering if we're like Gary, Indiana. No, shout to Gary. I got a lot of friends from Gary. Gary's an amazing community too, but they find themselves in some economic
No,
times.
I know that.
Yeah, we have some amazing foundations here and philanthropy that I think is why we're not Gary.
So there are.
I hope we don't use this part.
No, I know. But there's a lot of activism here. There's a lot of advocacy here.
Yeah.
Do you think does that give you hope?
Yeah, one thing that really gives me hope is, again, I think as a society, we're starting to be more reflective on how different communities have been treated, how neglect to different neighborhoods is detrimental to the overall health of the county and the surrounding area. And I think as we learn more about it and really get into it, I think we'll find that the residents and community members of Flint will continue to be advocates to learn from our country's mistakes as a collective, and as well can hopefully serve as a model again in saying maybe we need some reparative action, and maybe these are some different steps that we can take for cities like Flint and Detroit to go from prosperous to detriment. I think these communities got a lot to offer in reparative works and coming together as a community again.
Are you going to stay here?
I love Flint. Yeah, I want to get Flint tatted on my neck, but I might not get a job. I don't know. Yeah, I have no plans to leave Flint right now, but I will say I did live in Mexico for a time after I got my degree, and that was the greatest experience of my life. It was very, I will say, healthy to my spirit to live in a country where I felt like you couldn't cut racism with a knife, where I felt like I wasn't treated differently or perceived differently merely based off my identity.
Oh my God, what a fantastic thing to say. That's so.
Yeah, I want to live in
important for
Mexico.
people to
That's
hear.
my goal.
You what?
I said I want to live in Mexico. That's my goal.
That's fantastic. I think that's really good for people to hear.
Yeah, I hope
know
so.
You laughed all the way through this interview, but you said some really important things.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to deliver it in a way that's not going to freak people out. Because as well, I'm also trying to be very cautious about how we talk about white supremacy and the detriment to our city.
No. We're in a really scary moment.
Yeah.
for you right now.
Yeah. Scary to work at the center. There's a lot of Confederate flags and Trump flags on the east side where,
Really.
yeah. I called our insurance company because we have terrorism coverage. And I said, does this protect against maybe a radical coming in here with a gun and deciding that we are the problem to the issues that they are confronted with? They said, no, that's not covered. I said, oh, okay. I said, that sounds like a terrorist to me,
I'm just
but
curious, what does terrorism coverage cover then?
I think they think more like the stereotypical terrorism that somebody will drop a bomb over here or something. But we're in Flint, so I'm not too worried about that.
Well, no, we're in a very, very slippery moment
Yeah.
in our country. And I think as people fall into economic hardship, they tend to blame.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah.
It's the way
It's got to be
it's the
this.
way it is.
It's the other's fault for sure. Yeah.
Is there anything that we didn't talk about, or that you didn't say, or that you'd like to say?
I was just gonna say, yeah, no, it's not gonna be used. It's not gonna be helpful.
It's not gonna be helpful?
I look forward to the day when our local community can start being more reflective and talk about reparative initiatives and actions that we can take, and really setting some indicators that will let us know that the actions that we're taking is more reparative in really resolving, unfortunately, that a lot of the detriment that we've seen is a result of either our culture as a society or directly due to racist and oppressive policies.
Fantastic.
Hopeful, not hopeful, but hopefully.
I mean, you have to, I think the fact that you aren't packing up and moving to Mexico, you're staying here
Oh.
in Flint, tells me that you're somewhat hopeful.
I love Flint. Love the activism. There's a lot to be an advocate about.
Well, good, then you have a job forever.
Right? Thank you.